rules. Then I walked into federal court with my grandfather's original 1971 deed. What would you do if someone built a neighborhood on your property? Drop your state below. Let's see where my land rights family is watching from. My name's Dakota Flint. Yeah, like the stone. 47 years old, structural engineer, divorced. I drive a 2008 Silverado that burns a quart of oil every month.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Each Apple product, like the iPhone, is thoughtfully designed.
Nothing special about me except one thing. My grandfather left me 47 acres of Colorado forest worth about $4.2 million. William Flint bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 cash. Depression-era guy, kept every receipt in leather ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40. When he died in 2019, he left me the property with one note tucked inside the deed. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. I didn't visit for 3 years. Divorce, 2 kids in college, 70-hour work weeks. But I paid property taxes every April, $6,400 annually, never late, always online. I had the email receipts. August 2022, I finally drove up to scatter Grandpa's ashes, turned off Highway 36 onto the old fire road, and my stomach dropped. The pine forest was gone. In its place, 96 Mediterranean stucco houses with fake balconies and HOA-mandated beige paint. A carved stone entrance sign read, Ridgeline Heights, a Whitmore luxury community. I checked my GPS 4 times. Same coordinates. This was my land. At the gatehouse, a security guard stopped me. Residents only. I own this property, I said, holding up my phone with the deed photo. He smirked. Sure, buddy, and I'm Elon Musk. Turn around. Before I could argue, a white Range Rover pulled up. Out stepped Cassandra Whitmore, mid-50s, Botoxed into a permanent look of mild surprise, wearing white linen that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She had that specific energy of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Problem, Ray? She asked the guard, not looking at me. This gentleman claims he owns the development. Cassandra finally turned. Her eyes scanned me, work boots, Carhartt jacket, calloused hands. I watched her mentally file me under poor. How charming, she said. Sweetie, if you're looking for construction work, most crews have filled their labor positions. But I can take your number. I'm not looking for work. I'm the legal owner. My grandfather, William Flint. Ah. She pulled out her phone, scrolled with manicured nails. Our title company ran a forensic search. This land was abandoned for over 3 years, which under Colorado Adverse Possession Statute 38-41-101 means nothing if property taxes were paid, I interrupted. Her smile went sharp. That's adorable. You know just enough to be dangerous. She pulled out a business card, held it between 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Brian Kemper, our attorney. He'll explain why your claim is, what's the legal term, frivolous. I took the card. How many houses are sold? All 96. Pre-construction sales totaled 16 million. Families are moving in by Thanksgiving. She said it like a threat. This is a legitimate development, properly permitted through Boulder County. If you continue trespassing, I'll call Sheriff Mitchell personally. We're major contributors to his department's equipment fund. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She pulled out her phone, snapped my license plate. Just in case you decide to come back and vandalize anything, we have excellent security footage. She leaned closer. And trust me, honey, people like you don't win against people like us. The diesel smell from a nearby excavator mixed with fresh concrete. A nail gun echoed pop, pop, pop like a countdown. I drove home, hands shaking. That night, I spread Grandpa's documents across my kitchen table. The 1971 deed, 47 annual tax receipts, survey maps. Cassandra had threatened me, photographed my truck, and implied I was a criminal. She'd also just given me everything I needed to bury her. Monday morning, I called Brian Kemper, Cassandra's attorney. His receptionist had that voice, professionally pleasant in the way dentists are when they're about to tell you that you need a root canal. Mr. Kemper is in depositions all week. Can I take a message? Dakota Flint, about the Ridgeline Heights property. Pause. Oh, yes. Mr. Kemper anticipated your call. He's authorized me to offer a nuisance settlement of $15,000 if you'll sign a quitclaim deed by Friday. $15,000. For $4 million in land. I'd heard about quitclaim deeds from my divorce. That's how my ex got the timeshare in Branson that neither of us wanted. Basically, you're signing away all your rights to something without anyone promising those rights actually exist. It's the legal equivalent of saying, I give up, don't even care if I'm right. My divorce lawyer had told me, never sign one unless you're absolutely sure you're walking away from nothing. Tell Mr. Kemper I'll see him in court, I said, and hung up before she could respond. I needed a real lawyer, not the guy who'd handled my divorce for $2,200. I needed the kind who makes other lawyers check their malpractice insurance. My buddy Marcus, a civil engineer in Cheyenne, gave me one name, Lydia Chen. She'd beaten a railroad company in a Wyoming adverse possession case so badly they'd offered her a job just to make her stop. Her consultation fee was $500. I paid it with a credit card and prayed. Lydia's office smelled like old leather and lemon furniture polish, the kind of smell that costs money to maintain. She was about 60, gray hair in a tight bun, reading glasses on a beaded chain. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, making notes in handwriting so perfect it looked like a font. When I finished, she set down her pen. Show me your tax receipts. I pulled out a folder thick enough to hurt someone. Email confirmations, bank statements, county records, every April payment since 2019, plus copies going back to Grandpa's first payment in 1971. She flipped through them, and I watched her mouth twitch into something that might have been a smile on a less controlled face. Colorado adverse possession requires 18 years of open, continuous, hostile possession, and the squatter has to pay property taxes the entire time. If you've been paying, their claim is stillborn. So I get an injunction? Stop construction? You could. She closed the folder.
This steel decking has a rating over 25. It's laser straight, it has a coating.
But here's what I'd do instead, and you're going to think I've lost my mind. Let them finish building. I stared at her. What? If you stop construction now, Cassandra's company declares bankruptcy. Your land gets tied up in a 3-year litigation circus with 96 families who bought homes in good faith suing everyone including you. Banks, title companies, insurance companies. It becomes legal whack-a-mole. She leaned forward. But if you let them finish, then file for declaratory judgment, you own 96 completed houses. Cassandra's company has committed textbook fraud, selling property they don't own. They'll be desperate to settle because the alternative is prison. My hands were shaking. What if they somehow win?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's Saturday morning. Now, what we're watching is very common in this corrupt piece of crap country, America. If you have land and it's left to you in a deed or a will or whatever, and you don't build on it, some people don't even know they own property. In America, if that land is not touched for so long, these states or whoever can turn around and scam you out of it. Declare that it's undeveloped and no one's done anything on it for so long, whatever it may be. Even some people have had land and not paid taxes on it because they had no idea that they owned the land. Right? So this is a very common thing in America. Very common. If you can rip somebody off in this country, there's a will and a way. They'll do it. Now let's continue with this. I mean, this has happened to so many of us, right? We're a bunch of idiots. We don't, we have no idea what's in people's wills or when they pass away or whatever. Most of these people, they declare that you're an idiot and you don't deserve any of this. And how could this happen? And how could you be getting this? You're an idiot. And so this happens all the time. And that's why a lot of people are taking things into their own hands, and the whole court system, which you'll see in this story, this was all done through the courts, just so happens this guy caught it in time.
Win. They won't. But even in some parallel universe where they did, you've lost nothing. Your land's already occupied. The The difference is whether you fight one corrupt developer or 96 traumatized families. It was cold, strategic, brutal, and it made perfect sense. How much, I asked. 40,000 in legal fees, maybe 50, but when we win, and we will, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's fees. You'll own the houses outright, sell them, rent them, or negotiate a settlement worth millions. I had $12,000 in savings. My Silverado needed a transmission. My daughter's tuition payment was due in January. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One last thing. Lydia's voice dropped. Don't contact Cassandra. Don't post on Facebook. Don't tell anyone except your kids and maybe one trusted friend. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold. I hired her that day, signed a retainer agreement that made my stomach hurt. September bled into October. I drove past Ridgeline Heights twice a week, parking on the public road with my phone camera running. Framers swarmed like ants. The air smelled like sawdust and diesel fuel. Plumbers hauled coils of PEX tubing. Electricians snaked wire through walls. And every time I visited, I took time-stamped photos. Cassandra spotted me during her third week. She made a phone call. I could see her from 200 yards away, gesturing at my truck like I was a bomb. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Torres, young guy, probably late 20s, with the uncomfortable body language of someone caught between a rock and a campaign donor. "Sir, need to see your license." I handed it over. "I'm on a public road, officer." He walked back to his car, ran my plates, came back looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Mrs. Whitmore says you've been harassing her, following her, taking pictures." "I'm documenting construction on property I own. Check Boulder County records. Parcel APN 559-32-4008. Owner, Dakota Flint." Torres shifted his weight. "Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court. But she's filed a formal complaint. If she calls again saying you're threatening her, I'll have to take action. Understand?" Translation: she donates to the sheriff's re-election fund. You don't. Understood. He left. I kept taking pictures. By November, the first families moved in, U-Hauls blocking.
Now, you see what this police officer said to Mr. Flint. She was a donor to the sheriff's department. And when you're a big donor to the sheriff's department, who does the sheriff's department usually side with? Yeah, the people that's donating big money to them, right? Now, she went ahead and made a fake report that he threatened her, and it was the other way around. She threatened him. So the whole complaint was fraudulent in the first place. And now she's got all these police backing her because, well, she was contributing to the police department, right? So who are they going to go with? Some idiot that owns the property that was being scammed, or somebody that was donating to their sheriff's department? You know, this happens every day, folks. Every day.
Cul-de-sacs, kids on scooters, the smell of pizza delivery mixing with fresh paint. I watched a couple carry a crib into house number 43, watched another family plant a maple tree in their front yard. And I felt sick, because these weren't villains. They were people who'd saved for down payments, who believed they were living the American dream. But Cassandra, she was about to learn that stealing costs more than money. Thanksgiving week, Cassandra sent me a certified letter. I signed for it at the post office, and the clerk, a woman named Deb who'd known my grandfather, wrinkled her nose when she saw the return address. "Whitmore Development, LLC? That's the lady building those McMansions on Old Mill Road, right?" She handed me the envelope. "My sister tried to buy one. They wanted $485,000 for 1,800 square feet. Highway robbery." I opened it in my truck. Legal letterhead, Brian Kemper's signature at the bottom, 3 pages of dense legalese that boiled down to, "Stop trespassing or we'll sue you for harassment." There was a photo attached, my Silverado parked on the public road taken from inside the subdivision. Someone had circled my license plate in red Sharpie. Handwritten in the margin, "Document everything." I drove straight to Lydia's office. She read the letter, then started laughing. Not the polite kind, but the genuine belly laugh of someone who'd just been handed a gift. "They're documenting their own fraud," she said, wiping her eyes. "Every letter they send, every photo they take, every interaction, it's evidence that they knew there was a dispute and kept building anyway. This is beautiful. Doesn't feel beautiful. Feels like I'm being stalked. You are. But here's what you're going to do. Nothing. Let them waste money on legal threats. Let them generate evidence. We'll file in January, right after the holidays when everyone's distracted." She pulled out a yellow legal pad. "Meanwhile, I need you to get me everything about Cassandra Whitmore. Property records, business filings, tax liens, anything public. I want to know who's financing this development."
First, we offer overnight boarding. Your pet will stay overnight in your sitter's home and not only be treated like part of the family.
I spent the next 2 weeks becoming an amateur detective. Turns out, when you're an engineer, you know how to read plats, survey maps, and permit applications. I started with Boulder County's online records. Whitmore Development LLC was registered in Delaware, always a red flag. Delaware corporations are like offshore bank accounts for people who want to hide things, with Cassandra as the sole managing member. But the financing came from Ridgeline Capital Group, a Denver-based investment firm. I dug deeper. Ridgeline Capital was owned by 3 partners, and one of them was married to Cassandra. His name was Preston Whitmore, a real estate developer who'd been sued twice for construction defects and once for defrauding investors in a failed resort project. The cases had been settled quietly, records sealed. So this wasn't just Cassandra's scam, it was a family business. I found more. The Boulder County permits listed the land as formerly tax delinquent, acquired via adverse possession claim filed March 2022. But here's the thing about adverse possession. You can't just claim it. You have to prove it in court first, get a judgment, then record that judgment before you can sell property. They'd skipped that step. They'd filed a claim, then immediately started selling lots as if the claim had been granted. That's fraud. Premeditated, documented fraud. I sent everything to Lydia in an encrypted email, because by now I'd learned that developers like the Whitmores have ways of making people's lives difficult. She called me an hour later. "Dakota, this is better than I thought. Preston Whitmore has a pattern. If we can prove he knew about your ownership and proceeded anyway, this becomes criminal fraud, not just civil trespass." "How do we prove that?" "Let me worry about that. You just keep your head down." But keeping my head down got harder when Cassandra escalated. December 3rd, I got a call from Boulder County Code Enforcement. A man named Rick Paulson, who sounded tired in the way government workers do when they're handling their 50th complaint of the day. "Mr. Flint, we've received a report that you're operating an illegal dumping site on parcel 55932-4008. "What? I don't even live there." "The complaint says there are piles of construction debris, old vehicles, and possible hazardous waste. I'm required to inspect. If the violations are confirmed, you'll face fines starting at $500 per day." I drove up that afternoon with my phone recording. The property was pristine, well, except for the 96 houses Cassandra had illegally built. No debris, no vehicles, nothing. Rick Paulson met me at the entrance, clipboard in hand. He was about 50, sunburned, wearing a county vest. He walked the perimeter, checked behind the houses, took photos. Finally, he came back shaking his head. "There's nothing here. Someone filed a false report." "Who filed it?" He checked his notes. "Anonymous tip, but it came through Mrs. Whitmore's office as a concerned citizen complaint. So she's trying to get me fined for violations that don't exist on land she's currently occupying." Rick looked at me for a long moment. "Off the record? I've inspected 6 Whitmore projects. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners right before construction permits were approved. It's a pattern." He handed me his card. "If you need a witness statement, call me." I drove home with that card in my pocket and rage in my chest. Cassandra wasn't just stealing my land. She was trying to bury me in bureaucratic quicksand while she finished construction. But what she
All right. So what this crazy broad did, which is a pattern, was she started building on property before it was okayed by the government, whatever it may be. When she got caught, she right away called the police department, which she donated heavily to. And they all said, well, it sounds like a civil thing, and you threatened her. So if you threaten, if she calls us again saying you're threatening her, we'll have to come get you. But it was all an effing scam. This is very common in the USA. This is how these people that never worked a day in their lives are some of the richest people in the world. Scams. But the biggest scammer of all is the American USA government. I hate to say it, but it's true too. They are also scammers. So this crazy broad and her family starts calling the police, and now and comes up with all the lies, and now they're trying to say, well, you own the property and the property's a wreck, when they won't let him go on the property. They won't, they're saying he don't own the property. They do. And here they're trying to charge him with illegal dumping and all kinds of stuff. He don't even live at the property. This is a very common thing we're seeing in America. Happens every day, every minute, probably.
Didn't know, what nobody knew except Lydia, was that every move she made was digging her grave deeper. By Christmas, 84 houses were occupied. Families hung lights, kids built snowmen, and I had a court date scheduled for January 12th. January 4th, 8 days before my court date, I got a text from my daughter Emma at 11 p.m. Dad, did you get arrested? Someone posted on Facebook that you're harassing families in a neighborhood. It has 300 shares. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook, which I hadn't used since my divorce, and found the post immediately. It was pinned at the top of the Boulder County Community Watch group, written by Cassandra herself. Alert! Local man Dakota Flint has been stalking our family-friendly Ridgeline Heights community, taking photos of children, making residents feel unsafe. He claims to own our neighborhood despite clear legal title. Boulder County Sheriff's aware. Please report any sightings. Protect your families. The comments were a dumpster fire. People calling me a predator, suggesting I belonged on a registry. Someone posted a photo of my Silverado with the license plate visible, captioned, "This is his truck. Stay safe, everyone." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called Lydia. She answered on the first ring. I saw it. Don't respond. Don't comment. Don't defend yourself. She's calling me a pedophile, Lydia. My daughter's crying. My son called asking if I'm going to jail. I know, and it's defamation, and we're adding it to the lawsuit. But if you engage, you look guilty. Let me handle this. Her voice softened. Dakota, this is what desperate people do. She knows we filed. She knows her attorney's seen your evidence. This is a Hail Mary to discredit you before trial. It's working. I've gotten 12 messages from people I went to high school with asking what's going on. Good. Screenshot everything. Every share, every comment, every message, it's all evidence of malice. I spent the next 3 hours documenting the post's spread. By midnight, it had 847 shares. Someone had created a hashtag Stop Dakota Flint. I didn't sleep. The next morning, my boss called me into his office. Martin's a good guy. Ex-Navy, ran the structural engineering firm where I'd worked for 14 years. He closed the door, which is never a good sign. Dakota, I got a call this morning from a potential client. They Googled our firm and found a situation with your name attached. My chest tightened. The Facebook post. Yeah. He rubbed his face. Look, I know you. You're solid. But this client's a school district and they're nervous about optics. They specifically asked if you'd be on the project. And you told them no. I told them you're on personal leave pending resolution of a legal matter, which, effective today, you are. He pulled out an envelope.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is how this world operates. That's how easy it is. They literally wreck our lives, at least mine, and tried to do it to Dakota Flint. And this is ridiculous. And they talk about how it's the greatest country, democracy. You're a scamming ass pieces of crap. That's what you are. And don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget it. Bye.
Envelope. Paid leave 2 weeks. If this gets resolved, you're back immediately. If it doesn't, he didn't finish. I took the envelope. Understood. Walking to my truck, I passed Jenny from accounting. She'd always been friendly, brought cookies at Christmas, asked about my kids. She saw me coming and literally crossed to the other side of the parking lot. That's when I understood what Cassandra was doing. She wasn't just attacking my legal claim, she was attacking my life, my reputation, my job, my ability to exist in my own community. I sat in my truck and called Lydia again. "They're destroying me," I said. "I just got put on leave. People are crossing the street to avoid me. I'm filing an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Cassandra. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with business relations. We'll have a hearing Monday." She paused. "But Dakota, you need to understand something. This gets worse before it gets better. If you want to walk away, I'll negotiate a settlement. You'll get something, maybe $500,000. You can move, start over." I thought about Grandpa's note. "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." "No," I said. "We finish this. Then buckle up, because they're going to hit harder." She was right. January 7th, someone spray-painted pervert on my garage door. I filed a police report. The responding officer, not Torres, someone older named Patterson, took photos with the enthusiasm of a man filling out a DMV form. "Any idea who did this?" Check the Facebook post going around, probably someone who believed it. He wrote something down. "We'll increase patrols in your area." That night, I slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. January 9th, 3 days before court, my lawyer Emma called crying. Someone had sent her the Facebook post with a message. "Your dad's a creep, and everyone knows it." I drove to her apartment in Fort Collins. Found her on her couch with her roommate, both looking at me like I might be radioactive. "Dad, just tell me the truth. Are you really stalking people?" I sat down and explained everything. The land, Cassandra, the lawsuit, the houses. Showed her grandpa's deed, the tax receipts, Lydia's court filings. Emma read through them, and I watched her face change from fear to fury. "So she's lying about everything?" "Everything." "Then we need to fight back." "Lydia says we wait for court." Emma shook her head. "Dad, you've been playing defense your whole life. Divorce, work, everything. Just once. Hit first." I didn't respond, but her words stuck. January 11th, the night before court, I got one final message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. "Drop the lawsuit or everyone finds out what you really are." I forwarded it to Lydia.
Good morning, Miss Debbie Fox. This is a video that came out of a lady that her and her family, a gentleman was left a bunch of property when his grandfather passed away. And because he did not go and build on the property, this lady and other people that were supporting her went to court and said it was undeveloped land and nothing's been done to it, and they can't find the owner, and yada yada yada, whatever, and went to court and filed some kind of a thing to start building a permit to start building homes on it. So before she got a ruling from the court, she went ahead and started building on it. Over $16 million worth of property that she started building on. And it was illegal. You know, he didn't even know he was left the property in the will. Once his grandfather passed away, he found out that he owned this property. So he drove up there, and here they were. They already built 96 homes on it. He's like, "I own the property." And this little lady decided she was above God and the courts and everybody, and just went on the scam. But let's continue to listen to this. This is a true story.
Texted back immediately. Perfect. Bring your phone to court tomorrow. We're going to bury them. The Boulder County Courthouse smelled like floor wax and recycled air. I met Lydia in the hallway outside courtroom 3C at 8:45 a.m. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my truck, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it could stop bullets. "You ready?" she asked. I wasn't. My hands were sweating. I'd worn my only suit, the one from my daughter's high school graduation 3 years ago, that now felt too tight in the shoulders. "Do we have enough?" "We have a nuclear bomb. Trust me." She checked her watch. Cassandra's attorney filed a motion to dismiss yesterday at 4:57 p.m. Classic delay tactic. Judge Ramirez hates that. We walked into the courtroom. Cassandra sat at the defendant's table with Brian Kemper and Preston Whitmore, her husband, who I'd only seen in property records. Preston was about 60, gray hair gelled back, wearing a suit that screamed, "I've settled 3 fraud lawsuits." He was whispering to Kemper, both of them looking relaxed. Confident. Cassandra saw me and smiled. Actually smiled, like she'd already won. Judge Angela Ramirez entered. A woman in her 50s with reading glasses and zero patience in her expression. We all stood. "Be seated. Case number 2023 CV 00847, Flint versus Whitmore Development LLC and associated parties." She looked at Kemper. "Counselor, I received your motion to dismiss at 5 p.m. yesterday. You want to explain why you think that's appropriate?" Kemper stood. "Your Honor, the plaintiff's claim is defective on its face. Whitmore Development holds clear title via adverse possession. Mr. Flint abandoned the property for over 3 years. Did he pay property taxes?" Judge Ramirez interrupted. "Well, yes, but then adverse possession fails under Colorado Statute 3841-101. What else do you have?" I watched Kemper's confidence crack like cheap concrete. "Your Honor, the title company conducted a thorough search." "Ms. Chen?" The judge turned to Lydia. Lydia stood, and I swear the temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. "Your Honor, we're not here to debate adverse possession. That claim is frivolous. We're here because the defendants knowingly committed fraud." She opened her briefcase. "I'd like to submit Exhibit A, an internal email from Preston Whitmore to Cassandra Whitmore dated February 18th, 2022. She handed copies to the judge and Kemper. I craned my neck to see. Kemper's face went white. Judge Ramirez read it, and her eyebrow.
Debbie, it happened before February 8th, 2022. But it took a couple years to go through court or whatever to get into court, so. But yeah, this happens all the time, folks. This is how these people make their money. You know, and how do they know you know how much land is out there that people were left, but it's just woods, you know, and nobody owns it, or they do know that somebody owns it, but they have more money than the people that own the property or was left it in a will, and there's no way they can fight or do anything, so these people automatically go through with whatever they were doing, right? We own and some of them, like this video said, this lady Cassandra or whatever her name is, that was the builder, was a big contributor to the sheriff's department. So this guy was getting harassed by the sheriff's department, and this lady was making fraudulent, fake reports on him, saying that he was harassing her, but it really was the other way around.
Eyebrows went up. "Counselor Kemper, did you know about this email?" "Your Honor, I've never seen that document. It was submitted in discovery last week," Lydia said smoothly. "Perhaps it got lost in your office." "What does it say?" I whispered. Lydia slid me a copy. I read it, and my heart started pounding. "From Preston Whitmore at Ridgeline Capital, Com 2C Whitmore at Whitmore Development. Com subject, Old Mill Road property, risk assessment. Cassie, spoke with our title attorney. The Flint parcel is not abandoned. Owner, William Flint's grandson, has been paying property taxes continuously since 2019. Adverse possession claim won't hold up in court. However, If we move fast, file the AP claim, get permits approved, start selling lots before anyone notices, we can create enough chaos that Flint either settles cheap or gets buried in litigation costs. Worst case, we build everything, file bankruptcy, let the title insurance companies sort it out. We've done this before, Aspen Project 2019. Risk level, medium. Reward level, $16 gross. I read it 3 times.
And that's the scam right there, folks. They got so much money where they know you won't be able to go into court and fight them. Therefore, you'll settle for less than what you really should be getting. And it's all a scam. They don't care. Well, they'll file bankruptcy. You notice how none of these people go to jail. It's always the first thing out of a cop's mouth is, oh, it sounds like a civil thing, court thing. And literally, the police knew that this broad was nuts, right? But the only reason she had that much power was because she was contributing to the sheriff's department. So the sheriffs around there were protecting her, and some of them, I imagine, probably knew they were fraudulent loans, right? Or not loans, but complaints. Right. So that's why the cop said, it sounds like a civil matter, but you shouldn't be here. And this guy, Mr. Flint, was telling the cop, well, he owns the property. These people are trying to rip me off the property. So it was pretty crazy. But it happens every day, folks. Happens every day.
They'd known. From the beginning, they'd known they were stealing my land. Your Honor, Lydia continued, this email proves the defendants engaged in intentional fraud. They knew Mr. Flint owned the property. They knew their adverse possession claim was baseless. They proceeded anyway because they calculated, correctly I might add, that most people can't afford to fight a multi-million-dollar legal battle. Judge Ramirez looked at Preston and Cassandra. Is this email authentic? Preston started to stand, but Kemper grabbed his arm. Your Honor, we need to consult with our clients. That sounds like a yes. The judge closed the folder. Here's what's going to happen. Motion to dismiss is denied. This case is proceeding to trial, expedited schedule. In the meantime, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. Whitmore Development will cease all sales, marketing, and transfer of property related to Ridgeline Heights pending resolution. She looked at Cassandra. And Mrs. Whitmore, if I see one more Facebook post, one more anonymous tip to code enforcement, or one more threat directed at Mr. Flint, I will hold you in contempt. Are we clear?
My wife said no more plants. Didn't say anything about trees.
Cassandra's face had gone from confident to ashen. Yes, Your Honor, she whispered. Walking out of the courthouse, Lydia turned to me. That email? I got it from a whistleblower. One of Preston's former business partners who got screwed in the Aspen deal. He's been waiting 5 years for revenge. How did you find him? She smiled. I'm very good at my job. For the first time in 4 months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I bought a bottle of whiskey I couldn't afford and sat on my back porch watching snowfall. My phone buzzed every 5 minutes. Emma, my son Tyler, Marcus from Wyoming, even my ex-wife Jennifer sending a cautious, heard you had a good day in court. But the message that mattered came from Lydia at 9:47 p.m. My office, tomorrow 10 a.m., bring coffee. We're building the kill shot. I showed up at 9:30 with 2 large coffees and a box of donuts that seemed appropriate for planning someone's legal destruction. Lydia's conference room had a whiteboard covering one entire wall, already half filled with dates, names, and colored arrows connecting them like a conspiracy theory map. You brought donuts. She grabbed a glazed one. I like you more now. What's all this? This, she said, tapping the board with a marker, is how we turn your property dispute into a criminal referral. She drew a circle around Preston's name. The email was the grenade. Now we're bringing the artillery. She'd spent the previous evening with her paralegal tracking down every project the Whitmores had touched in the last decade. There were 7, all in Colorado mountain towns, all following the same pattern. Find land with unclear title or elderly owners, file aggressive claims, build fast, sell faster, let insurance companies clean up the mess. They're not
Wow, did you just hear that? So they target people, disabilities, idiots, old people, people that don't even know yet that they own property, uh, either left in a will or whatever. And these people, they target them. They steal their property if they own property already. They'll steal your house, your land, everything. And the thing is they don't care about the courts because they already have money. You know, they scam people, so they don't ever think you'll have enough money, which people don't. You know, 95% of the people don't have the money to go through a multi-million-dollar court settlement, right? And it's hard to find a lawyer that would take something on like that uh, without having big money. You know, you'd have to sign something, I think, where if you win, they would get so much money out of the earnings or whatever that you won in court. So this is an everyday thing. Uh, like I said, that's how these people do what they do. Uh, some of the biggest, beautifulest developments were built on other people's property that no one caught. No one, either the people that the property was left to were killed, you know, in an accident or something, or maybe died of an illness or whatever. But still, that didn't give these people the right because that property belongs to someone in that family because it was a will inheritance. So that if the people that were left the will, the land, were deceased already, then that property goes to the family or someone in that family. These people just can't take the property. Oh, well, he died and it's rightfully his. Well, what was rightfully his is also rightfully his wife's and his kids. I don't know what to tell you. That's the law, but these people don't live by it because they're above everybody. See, they're above everybody. And you don't have enough money to beat them in court. So this is how they do it, right? And when they do get caught, um, these people are such gluttons that they'll go down with the ship. You know, they'll take it to court and spend the millions and millions. Uh, Sometimes they win, sometimes they buy their way through the courts. Sometimes they lose, but they spend millions to try and cover up the lies and the crap they do.
Developers, Lydia said, they're land pirates with LLCs. But here's what made my case different. I had documentation. Grandpa's
See
meticulous
that?
records going back to 1970.
You hear what he just said? They're people with LLC, which you look on everything. There's everything behind it's LLC.com corporate or whatever, you know. So that's how these people are doing. It must be a giant ring of scammers or whatever because they're, you know, uh, it's just a bunch of crap.
71. Every timber sale, every fence repair, every property tax payment logged in those tobacco-scented ledgers. My own tax receipts, survey maps, photographs with GPS timestamps. Most of their victims were old, poor, or didn't keep records, Lydia explained. They either settled cheap or lost in court because they couldn't prove continuous ownership. You can prove everything. She pulled out a yellow legal pad. Here's the strategy. Phase 1. Discovery. We depose Preston, Cassandra, their title company, their lender, and every contractor who pulled a permit. Someone always cracks, usually the title company, because they don't want to lose their license. I remembered my divorce attorney had explained depositions once. Basically, you sit in a room and answer questions under oath while a stenographer types everything. People think they can lie, but lawyers like Lydia know how to ask the same question 17 different ways until you contradict yourself.
With over 40 models to choose from and over 1,500 machines shipped in the past.
It's like fishing with dynamite. Phase 2, she continued. We file an amended complaint adding RICO charges. RICO, like the mafia. Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. If we can prove they've engaged in a pattern of fraud across multiple projects, which we can, it becomes federal. And federal means treble damages. She wrote on the board, 16.348 That's what they're looking at if they lose. My mouth went dry. Can they even pay that? No, which is why they'll settle. But here's the beautiful part. Preston and Cassandra personally guaranteed the construction loans. If Whitmore Development goes bankrupt, the lenders come after their personal assets. Houses, cars, bank accounts, everything. She was enjoying this. I could tell by the way her eyes lit up when she talked about asset seizures. What do I need to do? I asked. 3 things. First, I need you to map every single visit you made to the property. Dates, times, what you saw, who you talked to. Deputy Torres, that code enforcement guy Rick Paulson, anyone who witnessed their harassment. I pulled out my phone. I've been keeping a log since September. Smart. Second, we need allies. Anyone in the community who's been hurt by the Whitmores. Former employees, neighbors, contractors who didn't get paid. I want a list. I thought about Rick Paulson's comment. I've inspected 6 Whitmore projects. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners. I know where to start, I said. Third, Lydia leaned forward. This goes public. Not Facebook. That's Cassandra's playground. We're talking local news. I have a contact at Channel 9 Denver who loves corporate fraud stories. Woman named Patricia Hughes, investigative reporter. She's won 2 Emmys for taking down a slumlord and a crooked county commissioner. You want me on TV? I want us on TV. You, me, and every family who bought a house in Ridgeline Heights thinking they were getting the American dream. Because here's the thing, Dakota, those 96 families, they're not the enemy. They're victims, same as you. When this is over, they'll own their homes free and clear, and Cassandra will own nothing but legal bills. She handed.
Ooh, doggy. And, you know, they're right about that. The people that were buying the houses from these developers were not the enemy. They weren't the one. They thought they were buying legit homes. They thought everything was on the up and up. They're not the enemies. Although, you know, I feel bad for them, but they're not the ones that caused the trouble because they thought that they were buying legit homes and legit properties. Right? So you got to leave them out of it. But also like this lawyer, Miss Chen, I wonder if she's still alive. This woman is good. Miss Lydia Chen. Right? Oh my God, this woman, I would have married her if she was my lawyer. Good God almighty. But she hit it right on the button. The whole shit and shaboodle's coming down. Billions. And, you know, like I said, this happens every single day. Every day. It's how these people make their money. We're a big, giant corporation development, but we're backed by LLC Incorporated. Which, you know, when I was younger and this whole LLC thing came out, you know, I'm an idiot. I have a disability. So I always thought it stood for Lucky Luciano, the crime mafia boss. They were like, I don't know. No, it's a bit. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure it don't stand for Lucky Luciano? But they said, no. So, you know, it's a big thing that everyone joins or whatever, you know, and then behind usually these businesses, you'll see LLC Incorporated, you know. So it's just a big, big, big mess.
Handed me a folder. This is the deposition schedule. Preston goes first, next Thursday. Cassandra the week after. You need to be there for both. I want them to see your face when they're forced to tell the truth. I opened the folder, saw the dates, the locations, the list of questions Lydia planned to ask. It read like a murder weapon. When this is over, I said, how much will I owe you? Less than you think, because when we win, the court awards attorney's fees. The Whitmores will pay me, all $60,000. She smiled. That's the beautiful thing about fraud cases. The guilty party pays everyone's bills. I left her office at noon with a plan, a purpose, and for the first time since August, a sense that justice wasn't just a word people said when they meant revenge. It was something you built, carefully, methodically, with receipts. Preston Whitmore's deposition was scheduled for January 18th at 9 a.m. in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of a Denver office building. Through the windows you could see the Rockies, snow-covered peaks glowing in the morning sun, indifferent to the carnage about to happen inside. Preston arrived in a charcoal suit with his own attorney, a woman named Diane Kelso who had the sharp, predatory look of someone who bills $800 an hour. He didn't look at me, not once. The court reporter, a tiny woman with a stenograph machine that clicked like nervous insects, swore him in. Lydia started gentle. Name, address, occupation. Preston answered in a bored monotone, like he'd done this 100 times. Probably had. Mr. Whitmore, do you recognize this email? Lydia slid a copy across the table, the February 18th smoking gun. Preston glanced at it. I do. Did you write it? Yes. So you knew, in February of 2022, that Dakota Flint was the legal owner of the Old Mill Road property? Diane Kelso leaned forward. Don't answer that. Lydia smiled. Your Honor granted a discovery order. He has to answer. Preston shifted. I knew someone named Flint was listed in county records, but our title company advised us the property was effectively abandoned under... Which title company? Rocky Mountain Title Group. Lydia made a note. I watched Preston's jaw tighten. He knew what was coming. She was...
All right, so there you go. The title company to the property or whatever determined that it wasn't built. The land was left for so long, nobody did anything with it because it was property that someone owned and they didn't build on it. So they just determined, well, it's unlivable land. It belongs to somebody, but they haven't done anything with it, and yada yada yada. So we can just take it and build on it. Yeah, that's how easy it is for these people to get away with just complete madness, right? There's no way around it. It's barbaric. It's and they're right. Nobody's got the money to go to court. So what do people do? We just walk away from it. We're so disgusted that we can't believe this is even happening. And a lot of people know exactly. A lot of people are lied to, because there's millions involved. Even if it's just $1 million, these people lie about it. The whole thing is corrupt. The whole shoot and shaboodle babamo is corrupt. And it happens every day. And it's sad. It's very sad because they talk about this great country. But even within the great country, the system is corrupt. They just took his land because he just let the wildlife grow on it. And because no one took care of it, nobody did anything, these people just thought they could take it and do whatever. It's just horrible. It's just effing horrible. It's horrible. That's why America is the worst country in the world when it comes to death and people getting what legally is theirs. Why do you think America, so many people come here to scam? Because you wouldn't be able to get away with this in other countries. They're very, very up to date with all that stuff. If you have an inheritance coming and someone steals it and it's in another country, they come down hard on you.
Going to depose the title company next, and they'd either confirm his lie or throw him under the bus to save their license. She asked 50 more questions, each one tightening the noose. By 11 a.m., Preston was sweating through his shirt. By noon, he'd contradicted himself 4 times. When Lydia finally said, "No further questions," he practically sprinted out of the room. Diane Kelso stayed behind. She looked at Lydia with something like professional respect. "Your client should settle," she said quietly. "Your client should have thought of that before committing fraud." "Name a number." Lydia closed her notebook. 10 million. Plus, he resigns from every corporate board, dissolves Ridgeline Capital, and personally finances the transfer of all 96 homes to their current residents at cost. Oh, and a written apology. Diane laughed, short and bitter. He'll never agree to that. Then we'll see him in trial, and I'll bring Channel 9 with me. 2 days later, the escalation I'd been dreading finally came. I got a call from Tyler, my son, at 6 p.m. He was 23, working as a line cook in Fort Collins while finishing his culinary degree. His voice was shaking. "Dad, someone came to the restaurant." My blood went cold. "What happened?" "This guy in a suit said he was a private investigator looking into you. Asked my manager if I was reliable, if you'd ever been violent, if there were incidents he should know about." Tyler's breathing was ragged. "Dad, my manager pulled me aside after and asked if there's something I need to tell him. I could lose my job." I closed my eyes. "What was the investigator's name?" He gave me a card. "Thomas Brennan, Apex Investigations." I wrote it down. "Tyler, listen to me. Don't talk to him again. If he comes back, tell him to contact my attorney. I'll handle this." After we hung up, I called Lydia, got her voicemail, left a message that probably sounded unhinged. She called back at 8 p.m. "I know. They hired a PI to dig up dirt. It's textbook intimidation. He went to my son's workplace. He's trying to get Tyler fired. And it's witness tampering, which is a felony." Her voice was ice.
And this is where the mafia techniques come in. They hire a private investigator. No one knows he's a private investigator. He's walking around. Now he goes to this man's son, Tyler, and starts questioning him, right? And this is the techniques that these people use. This is what they do, right? I feel bad for Tyler and all the rest of these people. You know, we all have sons named Tyler. You know, we all have daughters named, there's a connection there, right? It's very horrible that this happens in our country, but the facts are the facts. And that's the fact, Jack. It does happen in this country, and it continues to happen. And I feel very sorry for these people, but this is how it goes, right? These people, if they can't get to you, they'll try and get to your family, right? Very horrible. And they do use private investigators, and them private investigators, even bill collectors, do the same thing. They'll use mafia technique. Pay the money or you're never going to get your, pay the money or you'll never see your son again, your kids again, or what. It's always something in this country. Let's continue with this. I'm almost over with this here, folks. Couple more minutes, I'll shut it down in an hour.
Forward me that business card photo. I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow morning, but the hits kept coming. January 23rd, I got an email from the IRS. Notice of audit. They were reviewing my tax returns from the past 3 years, citing irregularities reported by a third party. There were no irregularities. I was a W-2 employee with simple taxes. This was harassment, pure and simple. I forwarded it to Lydia. She called immediately.
Well, wouldn't you know it, the IRS comes in, right? Somebody tipped the IRS off, said that this guy his taxes are fraudulent and everything, right? And now the IRS comes in auditing the guy, right? All techniques, corrupt government. Well, you would have to have really deep connections with the IRS. If they're getting calls from somebody saying, this guy's taxes are way crazy. That guy don't even know that he owns this shit. He had no idea he owned it because the grandparents or the parent or whoever left them the property wasn't dead yet. He got the stuff in a will. And like I said, if you got somebody that's in charge of a will that's corrupt, then you're never going to know that you owned it because they'll steal it.
They're burning bridges now. This is what happens when rich people panic. They throw money at problems until the problems go away. It's working. I can't afford an IRS audit on top of everything else. You won't have to. The IRS complaint is anonymous, but we can subpoena Apex Investigations' client records. If we prove the Whitmores filed a false IRS report, that's another felony. She paused. Dakota, they're making mistakes. Desperate people always do. January 25th, the mistakes got worse. Someone leaked the Ridgeline Heights sales contracts to a Boulder real estate blog. All 96 contracts, showing that buyers had paid between $450,000 and $530,000 for homes built on disputed land. The blog's headline, "Luxury developer sold homes on stolen property. Buyers may lose everything." My phone exploded. Emails from panicked homeowners. A woman named Sarah Chen called me crying. She'd used her entire life savings for the down payment on house number 67, and now her title insurance company was refusing to cover the claim because of the fraud allegations. "Mr. Flint, please, I have 2 kids. We moved here from California. This is supposed to be our forever home." I didn't know what to say. "I'm not trying to take your house. I'm trying to stop the people who stole from both of us. But what happens if you win? Do we get evicted?" "No. You'll own your home. The developer will pay for it." "And if they can't?" I had no answer for that. That night, Lydia called with news. "Channel 9 wants to interview you. Patricia Hughes, the investigative reporter. She's doing a segment on predatory land developers. It airs February 2nd, 1 week before trial." What do I say? The truth, that you're fighting for your grandfather's legacy, that you're not the enemy, the Whitmores are, and that every family in Ridgeline Heights deserves to keep their home. I thought about Sarah Chen's voice breaking on the phone. "Set it up," I said. The Channel 9 interview was scheduled for January 30th at my house. Patricia Hughes arrived at 2 p.m. with a cameraman named Steve and enough lighting equipment to film a Marvel movie. Patricia was mid-40s.
All right, we're going to end this here for now. The bottom line is either way, the homeowners would win. Even if the property was through the courts determined to be Mr. Flint's, and he now owned that property and all them homes, the people that live there would have to pay him. The mortgages would go to him, right? So either way, this guy wasn't in it to wreck 96 families' lives. Either way, they were going to be able to continue to own their homes. Either, which way this went, whether he was rewarded, the property was his, all the homes were his, all this stuff was Mr. Flint's. He seemed like a guy where he wasn't out he wasn't a glutton. He wasn't going to wreck people's lives and kick them all out. And I own these homes and yada, yada, yada. That would have been stupid. Although he could have, if the courts decided, that way, then he could have done that. But to me, it seemed like he wasn't into that. He wasn't into that. So he got a settlement, and he was happy with that. And everyone got to keep their homes. And, this is just a lesson to learn. There's people out there, and it's proven fact, they target old people. They target disability people. They target people, hell, you don't even have to be that. You just somebody that was left something in a will or whatever. And if there's money involved, it don't have to be millions. It could be 10,000. It could be 20,000. These people they'll find a way to try and scam you out of it. And, look at all the fraudulent fake reports that were made on Mr. Flint. Had to go through an audit and had to do all kinds of stuff. That right there would have drove me completely nuts over the edge. I'm not going to lie. This whole thing it drive me completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Right? Because you can't afford all this crap. You're poor. You don't even know you own this big, massive development or corporations or whatever. You don't even know it, right? And in order to do it, because these people were corrupt, they knew people that were in the system, police and everything else. They wrote up the right paperwork. It was fraudulent, but it was stamped with fake stuff. That was wrote up with fake stuff, and it got passed through the courts. So this happens all the time, folks. That's why don't listen to your family. Your families, if they're leaving you something, they should tell you, right? Because it'll get ripped off. It'll be scammed. You won't even know you own it, right? We've seen many families that their families passed away, and they were left money and land and cars and everything, but they had no idea, right? Because some people grow up, or they're brainwashed into believing, oh, well, you shouldn't ask people what you're going to be if they pass away. Do they get anything or like that? It's crazy. It's, well, whatever, it might be, but when you don't, and you come across fraudulent people, well, yeah, I can see how millions were stolen from everybody. Yeah, I can see how it's done, because you're raised to don't talk about it. Don't, what's wrong with you asking your grandfather if you have anything coming to you when he passes away or whatever? Yeah, just crazy stuff. It happens, though. I'm not going to lie, it happens. So what do? I don't know. We'll get back to this story another time. It's Saturday. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday. What a great video. But hey, the truth be told, people, well, that ain't true. No, it's true. And it happens every single day. And some of the poorest people right now, some of the people you look down on, call idiots, legally binding, are some of the biggest owners of property and money, but it was swindled. Right? And that also goes to if you don't have proper reputation, or reputation or whatever, someone that knows all this legal jibber jabber jobber stuff or whatever. Yeah, it's easy to get swindled. No, it's easy to get swindled. All right, we're going to end it there. I hope all you folks have a great day. God bless. All glory goes to God. Thanks for another day. Everyone needs a Miss Lydia Chen backing them, right? I wish we all did. You folks have a great day. Talk to you later.